Hey guys, what's going on? The project today on my 1992 Dodge W250 is we're going to be replacing the block heater. So the 12 valve Cummins engine in this truck had a block heater and block heater cord from the factory, but the terminal connector for the block heater cord was getting a bit ratty and I don't think it was working. So we're replacing it with a new block heater cord and Cummins block heater. We got the parts from Gino's garage. I'll show you those parts in a minute, and I'll show you the old engine block heater cord and block heater that's currently in the truck. All right, so here's the old cord that was in the truck. As you can see here, if I can focus it, it's all like rusty where the connection was made, and it was arcing when it was on the truck. You could hear it when it was wiggled a little bit and it wasn't working properly. All right, so to get good access to the block heater on the passenger side of the engine, we can take off this air filter, 7/16 deep socket at the turbo housing and also at the air filter housing. Here is a quick look at the current block heater on the truck. As you can see, the terminals of this original block heater are rusty a little bit and worn, so we'll be replacing that. Here's a quick look at the parts. Again, I got these from Gino's garage. They sell a genuine Cummins block heater replacement. As you see, Cummins, made in the USA. And then they sell a Cat's block heater cord that mates up with the block heater. So next step now is we're draining the rad. So we've got a couple water bottles here cut open, and then the drain plug at the bottom driver's side of the rad. And we're just draining it into a bucket now. All right, so according to the new one, the Allen bolt is 3/16 Allen. So we can go ahead and throw our Allen key on there, or if you've got an Allen socket, maybe one will fit on there too. And then we can start to try and get that thing out of the block. Okay, so we took our Allen key and loosened off that Allen bolt. I just backed it off right until it wouldn't sort of back off anymore. Because on the new one, it looks like at the end of this bolt, in order to keep that crossbar on there and from falling down into the block, there's something to keep it from going back. So just go until it doesn't go anymore, and now we can start pulling on this. Okay, so we're working on getting the block heater out. First thing that we tried to do is just put a pair of vice grips on here and pull back. This part on the face of this started to loosen, so that worried us, so we left that, and then we started prying on the edges and getting a punch around the edges, and that didn't budge it. So we tried vice grips on this receptacle again and stuck a long pry bar in through the vice grip and pried on the block, using that as leverage to pull it out, and now it's starting to come loose. So now we're gonna have to work it out, knowing that there's a bar that goes across, so we might have to wiggle it out in a certain direction, but it is loose from the block now. She's loose. All right, so now it's loose. You can see both both the O-ring here and where that plate is on the back. So we'll pull our vice grips off. Jesus, they're tight. And wiggle that out. So there's the old one. So now we can go in there and clean up this hole, dry it out, and use some sandpaper or fine sandpaper and smooth up the bore before we put in the new one. Alright, so now that the hole has been cleaned up, we use a scuff pad and then some spray nine to clean it up. We can go ahead and position in the new block heater. Slide that guy in there. And we'll index it roughly the same position that it was in with this guy at the top. Hopefully you can see that. Let me try twist it in there. Yep. There we go. So now we can hand tighten our Allen bolt. The Allen bolt has a small O-ring behind it to seal that. And then as you tighten that Allen bolt, that'll probably press it in to where it seats. Okay, so I'm tightening down that Allen bolt. In the factory service manual, it says to tighten this bolt securely. So there's no torque spec on this. Just tighten it down, and then if it leaks, tighten it some more, I guess. Okay. Call that secure. We'll go ahead and refill the system with coolant and then check for leaks. Alright, so we've got the cord on there now. I had to use an adjustable wrench because this nut is an 1/16" and we don't have an 1/16" wrench. Alright, so that block heater cord is now installed. I have a couple of other winterized things on this truck. So that block heater cord just goes along the cross member, and then I'll show you. So I've got 3 things plugged into this triple extension cord block. I've got my block heater, and then I have a battery warmer on there, and I also have my oil pan heater just on the bottom of my oil pan just there. So that way I can take the one outlet of the triple outlet and plug it in all at the same time. I'll show you, we've got that on top. So it's just up here, so all I have to do is pop the hood and plug that in. And just the one outlet. So what we can do now is plug it in and then use our infrared thermometer and point it at the block heater and see if it warms up. Same with the oil pan heater and the battery here. So I'll just get this plugged in. Right, so it's plugged in now. Just plugged it in, so we can probably watch the temperature increase gradually. So it started at 62 or 3. Right now it's at 69, almost 70, slowly increasing. I'm not sure what it'll get up to, but enough to heat up the coolant in the block. And then the oil pan heater will heat up the engine oil before it gets cranked over. And the battery warmer will keep our battery warm for cold days. I've also got a winter front on the truck to keep the cold air out. And I'm also doing a fuel filter heater mod, which will keep my fuel nice and warm and keep it from gelling over. So now we're up to 82.5. Okay, we're just under the truck at the oil pan heater, and you can see from the infrared thermometer we're getting a reading on the pad of about 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Almost 300 now. Seems to be pretty steady. That'll keep the oil nice and warm. Okay, and our battery warmer blanket is sitting at about 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Seems like it's taking a little bit longer to warm up, but I'm sure in the cold it would perform as needed. Alright, so we're back at the block heater, and it's up to 104 now, and it's still been increasing a little bit. Alright, so that wraps up the block heater install on my 1992 Dodge 12-valve Cummins. Overall, not too bad of a job. I could see that being an issue if that top thread part broke off. I saw another video online where a guy drilled a hole in it and used something in there to pry it out. Either way, try and get that out and get the new one in. Alright, so just to explain a few winter modifications that I've done on this truck. All because of an issue I'll explain after, but I want to go over the 6 different things that I've done to make this thing a true winter warrior, even though it may not be in the snow or winter anytime soon, because I'm moving out to California pretty much. So we've got the winter front up there. We've got the 3 things that are plugged into the 120. That's the block heater, the battery blanket, and the oil pan heater. And then the fuel filter heater modifications that I haven't done yet. That runs off of 12 volt, and that'll be on a switch, so I can turn it on and off in cold weather. And then in addition to that, we also, I run fuel additives. I use Optilube, and I recently switched over to Optilube Blue, which is the winter version, and that is a lubricity and fuel, it prevents fuel gelling at low temperatures, down to like minus 50 degrees Celsius or something like that. And in addition to those things, I've now started in the wintertime, I'm just going to keep in the truck extra fuel filters and also a bottle of this. This is Diesel 911, and if your fuel gels over, you can take off your fuel filter, pour some of this in there. It's basically like kerosene, and then you can also pour some in your tank, and then you crank it over, and it's supposed to degel already gelled fuel. So there's all that to winterize my truck, and this was all in part because one trip I was going from Ottawa to New Brunswick, and I left that morning, and it was minus 35 degrees Celsius out, and I was about half hour into my trip, and I started to lose power, and eventually a few kilometers down the road, if I let off the gas, the engine would shut off. So I made it to a gas station, and I had to be towed home to let the truck thaw out. So all these modifications are because of that trip, which is not a bad thing. So hopefully this helps if you're looking to winterize your truck a little bit and install your block heater. Thanks for watching.